In a lot of adventure stories, there will be the main character of that journey who usually starts off with nothing and ends up some kind of hero. And along the way, that hero may meet different characters to make that story more entertaining. Before the internet came around, one of the most extreme true life adventure stories that I've ever heard is the story of Joan of Arc. In the 1400s, a 16-year-old peasant girl, believing that she was acting under divine guidance, led the French army in a huge victory at Orleans that drove back an English attempt to conquer France. She was later captured and burned at the stake at the age of 19. And while this young lady had more of an adventure by the age of 19 than all of the Star Wars movies combined, this is not who I want to talk about. There was one guy who followed her that didn't come up in any of the pre-internet articles or documentaries done on Joan of Arc. But as the internet got going, I came across a guy named Gilles De Rais. When Amazon.com was still new, I found only one book on this guy that was first published in 1926 called Gilles De Rais, the Original Bluebeard. De Rais' story is believed to have been an inspiration for the French fairy tale called Bluebeard, written in 1967. That story features a wealthy nobleman with a blue beard who marries young women only to murder them and hide their bodies in a forbidden room. The original Bluebeard is about De Rais, a 15th century French nobleman who was a military hero, who some accused of kidnapping, torturing, and murdering numerous children, mostly boys, in order to summon demons. Ray lost both parents when he was young, leading him to being raised by his grandfather, but his family was wealthy, so he inherited a lot of money. Later, he married into the family of a very wealthy woman, which increased his fortune and made him one of the richest men in Europe at that time. But his lavish spending led to his family eventually seeking a royal decree to prevent him from further selling or mortgaging his lands. He distinguished himself in the military, participating in the 100 Years' War. His skill on the battlefield earned him quite a bit of acclaim. He joined Joan of Arc's army and they fought in several battles, most notably the Siege of Orleans. De Rais also accompanied her to the consecration of Charles VII as King of France, where De Rais was appointed Marshal of France. He continued to serve in Joan of Arc's Special Guard and was by her side during the attack on Paris. However, De Rais went down a pretty dark path after Joan's execution. Due to his reckless spending, he had financial problems and pursued unconventional means to try and restore his wealth, like alchemy, the practice of transforming metals into gold. He paid one person to assist him, named Francois Prelati, described as a faithless priest from Florence who claimed to be able to conjure a demon named Baron. Some of his rituals included tracing circles and characters on the ground with a sword and using a book with secret demon names that had instructions on how to call on them. Some accounts allege that when demons did not appear, De Rais' advisors suggested that the demon require child sacrifices, leading to the murder of children. But why would this guy go to such extremes? Some think that the trial and execution of Joan of Arc really affected him. He had tried to use his influence to have her pardoned and may have been putting together a small army to try and rescue her, but he failed on both accounts, and her death may have left him disillusioned with God, who seems to have abandoned her. During this time period, he is accused of abducting, torturing, and murdering up to 600 children. Rumors had begun to circulate when kids had gone missing in the areas around his castles. De Rais' crimes may have been an open secret. It came out during his trial that witnesses had seen his servants disposing of the bodies of dozens of children at one of his castles, and the families of the victims might have been afraid to speak out because of his high status. He was arrested in 1440 and put on trial before both ecclesiastical and civil courts. He had first refused to plead, but later confessed to the crimes under the threat of excommunication and possibly torture. He was found guilty of heresy and murder, then sentenced to death by hanging and burning, which occurred on October 26, 1440. Strangely, his confession was lauded at the time. De Rais had been so contrite and composed in the face of execution that this brought him praise as a model of Christian penitence. A 3-day fast was observed to reflect on it and possibly the horror of his crimes. So after being born into wealth and privilege, having a successful career in the military, becoming a prolific child torturer and murderer, while going all in on the black arts, he became sort of an inspirational icon for his community right after his execution. But Joan of Arc, who was born into poverty, raised an army, accomplishing more than most generals could have ever imagined, with witnesses saying that she continued to praise God and the saints even as the flames engulfed her, was labeled a traitorous heretic by her community. It took nearly 500 years for the same church that tortured and murdered her to canonize her in 1920. So it's one hell of an adventure story for Joan, where she, as the true hero, didn't get the happy ending, which is how a lot of real life stories actually go. Along with the story of Gilles De Rais, who had so much given to him, but was willing to do the most vile things to attain even more. Unfortunately, is also how way too many real life stories seem to go. Good night.